So what is a cause? A cause is a solid foundation of thought in which all your actions revolve around. It is a structure of consciousness that is based on the sacrifice and dedication you are willing to vow as part of your life. A cause can either make or break what you stand or fall for. To many, a cause is to die for, with tight fists and clenched teeth. The ability to circulate issues of the cause to the masses in so-called ignorance is called activism. To be an activist, you must first become an active member with your cause. To name some of the causes that we as the poor but heavily populated Latin ethnic group share are like racism, police brutality, independent struggles between nations, oppression, health, political, civil rights, etc. Each of these different types of causes can be met by the law: boycotts, demonstrations, rallies, strikes, economic manipulation, violence. But in many cases, some of these causes are put into effect and the results are temporary. That's when the cause becomes a struggle. A struggle is when there is many years of striving to have a cause met with total and permanent success. A movement is when the masses share the same cause and are willing, able, and are active to serve a cause. Radicalism is when a cause is enforced as an obligation and need upon movement. It is the valor and courage put into a cause. Then we have extremism, perhaps the most dangerous. It's when there is no limit to the extent the cause is able to bring. Extremists go as far as suicides or even death of innocent or guilty masses in order to bring the attention of a cause. So now I ask you again, what is our cause? We have a history here in the United States as well as the motherland. But ours, the Puerto Rican, starts at the migration period of the early and mid 1900s. During this period, the average Puerto Rican, not all, but a small few, had a very small physical physique and appearance, which has been inherited to us by our Indian ancestors. That alone could be one of the reasons why it is said that most Puerto Ricans stick together and are always seen in large groups, especially in youth. And it could be the myth behind why we carry knives. So, what one of us can't do, 5 or 6 of us can. During the migration period, Puerto Ricans often occupied neighborhoods that were predominantly black. Black neighborhoods filled with the frustration and oppression and neglects. And if that wasn't enough, along came the Puerto Ricans to add to that oppression, the pain, and the roach-infested tenement buildings. It was with the lack of cultural understanding that Puerto Ricans became the victim of second-class citizen treatment. Starting with the fact that fluent English was rare among Puerto Ricans at the time. The Americanization of the people seemed hopeless at the time. Though we share the same roaches, communications and being politically conscious seemed an almost impossible task to achieve. It was with the second-class citizen treatment that led to a cause unknown to many, but planted in the hearts of our deep Latin American brothers and sisters. And that cause is the cause of identity. The first recorded cause of identity among our people was in the year of 1511, when a mass revolt occurred on the island of Boriken. The inhabitants of this land revolted against the Spaniards because of the Spaniards' rapid greed and cruel treatment of these Indians, mostly Taino Arawak. The Spaniards also used brutal force to enslave the inhabitants, rape the females, and force the Christian religion and beliefs upon them. They also executed those who showed signs of resistance, of course. This violent uprising was a cry to restore their identity. It was a desperate attempt to restore the land to the peoples, or have you. The message is clear, we are not slaves. This is our land, and your God is not our God. The second recorded event, that in which identity would play a prime factor, is known as the famous Grito de Lares. That's the cry of Lares, Puerto Rico. This is when on September 23, 1868, the town of Lares held a large revolt in protest to the Spaniards. The native people wanted to be recognized as Puerto Ricans by the Declaration of the Republic of Puerto Rico. A republic, which is small thing to swallow, because such an identity cry against a stronghold of the heavily dominated Spanish government was like unheard of. That courage is like the courage of the pitirre. A pitirre is a small bird native of Puerto Rico, which is smaller than a swallow. Its fearlessness is well recognized with some of the largest birds, including like the chicken hawk and eagle. Pitirre is known to attack any bird many times its size. It protects its home, nest against threatening enemies. Even the hawk knows that the pitirre is not a prey, but a fierce protector of its territory. Our cause today, even for those who don't know it, is about identity. Why else would we hold parades on a land that is not ours and proudly wave our flag in a country with its own flag? Wherever we're at, the message is clear. We are the Latin people, and we're here to stay, no matter what you say. Many of us have become somewhat Americanized to the point where this type of struggle no longer exists. And what do? We begin to see other Latin groups, such as Mexicans, Colombians, Cubans, Dominicans, as second-class citizens, forgetting the fact that they too share the sacrifice and struggle of the sacred struggle of identity. From struggle, in order to achieve it, there has to be much sacrifice. A sacrifice is like fasting, to abstain from food. The purpose of a fast is to purify you from the material and into the spiritual self in order to better enhance communication with a higher force. It's called purity. The sacrifice to a cause is much like a fast, because in a sacrifice you separate all impurities in which corrupt the principles of enhancing the focus of your cause. In a sacrifice, all materialistic sources such as personal relationships, financial well-beings, freedom, liberty, etc., are all secondary to your cause. There's a philosophy that says right and wrong are situational. In the appropriate situation, nothing is right. Nothing is wrong. Without the appropriate situation, nothing is right. If a cause is applied for an appropriate situation and the reason is beyond superficial, then the wrong sacrifice is like no sacrifice. It's like a sin not to sacrifice. Everything is in its place. Since the beginning of consciousness, man has sacrificed.